Hello, pre-algebra students. What I would like us to do today is learn about intercepts. Now, the way that I'm going to have you deal with this one is that in the instructions it tells you that you need to send me a picture of your notes. So please make sure that you take good notes. I am going to be looking for some specific things in your notes. I know that your notes are your notes, but especially for those who don't like to write things down, that's just going to be a huge part of your Did You Come to Class Today thing. Okay? So today your job is to watch this video carefully and take good notes. Tomorrow you have a work day on assignment 80, and so tomorrow we'll be just working on that assignment. Okay, so today take good notes. And you're going to be taking a picture of them afterwards, and I'll be looking for some specific things that I'm going to ask you to write down. So the first thing we need to talk about is what are intercepts. Intercept is kind of just like it sounds like. It sounds like something would cross over something else, and it will. So we want to think about it in terms of a graph. Okay, so at the very least, I want you to write down this graph. You do not have to use graph paper. Okay, but I am, because I want you to be able to see what is happening with this graph. Okay, and I'm going to make this graph so that we have some things happening. I need to move it and adjust it just a little bit because I need to make sure that it has something that's very clear to show you. Okay, there we go. All right, now when you draw your graph, okay, I want you to make sure that your graph is crossing the x-axis, okay, cross the x-axis at 3 and the y-axis at 2. So if you are doing the thing where you just drew on notebook paper and you just drew like this, and you have your little marks, make sure that this part is touching at 3 and this part is touching at 2, because this is what we're doing for you to be able to understand what's happening. So on this graph and on many graphs, we have two intercepts. We have what's called an x-intercept and we have a y-intercept. X is simply where it crosses the x-axis and y is where it crosses the y-axis. So what I want you to need you to do, and I will need to see your graph that's just like that we just made, and I'm going to need you to write the word x-intercept equals 3, y-intercept equals 2. Okay, so that's what I will be looking for in your notes. Okay, I'll make sure that you have at least this graph down for x-intercept and y-intercept. All right, that is your job for that, because x-intercept is where it touches the x-axis, y-intercept is where it touches the y-axis, and we can't really go forward unless you understand that. Now this other graph you do not have to draw, okay, but I'm going to draw this one. You do not have to draw this one, just so you know. I'm just giving you a second example. If you do draw it, that's great, because that can help you in your notes. But I'm going to put a point here, and I'm going to put a point here. I want to make my line go through those 2 points, and I'm going to do that. It's easier if I just take and extend. Okay, extend right through it. Oh, I can just drag it too, that works. Okay, so we have that. This one, we have two intercepts. We have our x-intercept, just so that you have another example to follow. Your x-intercept is 4. And think for a minute what your y-intercept would be. X-intercept equals 4. Your y-intercept equals 1, 2.5, or 2.5. So yes, you can have fractionals or decimals in there. So that's what I wanted you to do. Make sure you at least have this one written down and that you understand that the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis and the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. It could be, either one of them could be positive or negative depending on where it went. If it was over here, it would be a negative x-intercept. These numbers are going to be used for some very specific things. They can also be given as ordered pairs. So just keep in the back of your mind, sometimes people will write an x-intercept as the ordered pair 4, 0, and the y-intercept as the ordered pair 0, 2.5, because those are the ordered pairs that go with them, and that might be helpful and something that we're going to take a look at in just a little bit. The next thing that we want to take a look at is how to find the x and y intercept from equations rather than just finding them from the graph. Because we know that you could, if you wanted, make a list of x values and y values and then use them to find the use them to make a line, okay? But the x-intercept and the y-intercept are going to be super important in really understanding the concept of some of the graphs and doing some of the graphs, and then also understanding another concept to go with it. So if you want to find the x and y intercept, for example, for this equation, okay, it's going to involve you finding really just 2 points. Remember I said that when you have a point on the x-axis, for example, if it was an intercept of 4 on the x-axis, the number would be 4. That would really be the ordered pair 4, 0. And on the y-axis, it would really be the ordered pair 0 and then that number. We really only need to find 2 points here. Okay, so when we do this, we're going to set up an x and y table. This is the easiest way that I can think of to do this. Okay. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to plug in 0 for x. When you plug in 0 for x, okay, when you plug in 0 for x, I have y equals 0 minus 2. My answer is -2. And I want to show you what we have just found. All right, you're going to make a very rough graph here. Okay, this is going to be our graph that goes with y equals x minus 2. Okay, so we're going to make a y-axis. Notice I don't even have a piece of notebook paper here. I'm just making a very rough graph because this is all I need to do for something like this. Okay. If the directions are telling you, this is actually another concept, if the directions are telling you to graph using x and y intercepts, first you need to find the x and y intercepts. So let's think about what this ordered pair 0, -2 looks like. Okay, 0, -2 would go 0 this way and down 2. So here would be one of your points. Notice that that point is on the y-axis. So what that tells me is when I fill in 0 for my x value, I have found the y-intercept, which equals -2. Okay? Now, if I want to find the x-intercept, oh, and by the way, I will be looking for this example on your notes. Okay, the other example we're going to do together, but I'll be specifically looking to see this one. You should really take more notes than that, but I'm 2, 0. So if I were to graph this right here, I have the ordered pair 2, 0. 1, 2, 0. There's my ordered pair. That is on the x-axis. That's where your line is the equals 2. Now you do not have to make the graph if the directions don't tell you to, but the directions will tell you to find the x and y intercept. So to do that, you have to fill in those zeros. When you fill in a 0 for the x, it gives you the y-intercept, and when you fill in for the y, it gives you the x-intercept. If the directions say graph using intercepts, write this in, please. That means the expectation is that you find the x and y-intercept, and then you draw in a line. I'm going to on purpose not use my tool so that, I just want you to draw in your best straight line. Okay, there is our graph using the intercepts. So this is what I can expect to see from all of you on this. So this is finding our x and y intercept from the equation. This is the instruction graph using intercepts. So we've just covered two concepts. All right, so because we should always have a second example at least, I'm going to do a second one. This one, it would be a good idea for you to write down, but I'm specifically looking for the other one, so I'm going to designate this one to be in red. I might need more space, so I might need to move something over, but that's okay. So x equals 0. So I want to fill into my equation y equals negative 3 times 0 minus 5. So this gives me negative 3 times 0, which is 0. 0 minus 5, which gives me negative 5. So this is my first ordered pair, and I want you to think for a second, what have I just found? I have found my y-intercept. I have found the ordered pair 0, negative 5. I'm going to take this, I'm going to move this out of my way, and I'm going to make my graph. I'm just going to take this. This is the nice handy part about this, is I can do this pretty easily. And so what I need to do then is I need to make an x and y axis. There we go. There's my y-axis. Here's my x-axis. Put in my lines here. There we go. So I have x, I have y. I can graph my y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go, 0, negative 5. If the direction said to graph, you would be doing this step. If it just says find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, we now have our y-intercept. Then in order to find our x-intercept, we're going to use a different color. You plug in for y equals 0. So I'm going to plug in y, oops, not y, I'm taking the y out and I'm replacing it with a 0. So I have 0 equals negative 3x minus 5. And I need a little more space, so I can do this. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And so I have negative 3x equals 5. I can then divide both sides by negative 3. So x equals, let's see, 5 divided by 3 gives you 1 2/3. negative 1 and 2/3. And what I have found here is I have found my x-intercept. This was negative 1 and 2/3. Yes, it's a fraction. That's okay. My ordered pair is negative 1 and 2/3, comma 0. So my x-intercept equals negative 1 and 2/3. That's our second answer there. Well, where does that belong? Okay, I'm on my x-axis. I'm going to the ordered pair negative 1 and 2/3. So here's negative 1, here's negative 2, so negative 1 and 2/3 would be about here. Okay, intercepts, because of the fractions, are not always the best way to graph, but it is a way, and we will be looking at one other way to graph it shortly. I just want to use a regular pencil. Okay, so I'm going from here to here in my best straight line. You're going to be able to use a straight edge, use edge of a piece of paper or a ruler if you've got one. Okay, but right now I'm just making the point that you've got a very nice way of doing this by intercepts. This line would be super, super, super straight. Okay, actually, let me get rid of this and I'll make it super straight to make my point, because you're going to have a straight edge, so I guess I should have a way to make a straight line through there. And then if I needed to, there we go. You would take your pencil and make it longer. I make mine longer, nice straight line that goes through those points. Okay, so right now we have learned how to find the x and y intercepts from an equation by plugging in the zeros. So you've got answers here, and we've also learned to graph using x and y intercepts. And we have just one concept more for the day. And our last concept for today is to make a graph not using both the intercepts, but just the y-intercept and the slope. So this is a very, very nice way of making a graph. It does not involve making a whole big list of ordered pairs. When an equation is in this form, the y-intercept is really just looking right at you, and I want to show you what I mean by that. Okay, we don't really need the x-intercept to do the graph. As a matter of fact, your graph will be better and look better if you don't even address it. So what I would like to do is I would like to find the y-intercept. If you remember, when we're trying to find the y-intercept, that is when your x value equals 0. I'm not even making a big chart, I'm just doing this one. And when it is in this format, when you have y equals a number times x plus a number, that means that this number comes out to be the y-intercept, because 2/3 times 0, anything times 0 plus that number gives you your y-intercept. Okay, so our y-intercept here is 1. All right, so our number that becomes our y-intercept is this number that's out here by itself that's not attached to the x. Over here, this, our y-intercept, would equal 1 as well. I'm going to throw a couple of other examples up here. I want you to at least have one of them in your notes that I'll take a look at, but here's another one. If I had negative 3/8 x plus 9, the y-intercept would be 9. If I had y equals negative 3/8 x minus 7. Okay, now here's an interesting thing, is since there's a minus in front, it's attached, and our y-intercept would be negative 7. So our y-intercept is always going to be that number that's hanging out there by itself. All right, this is your pre-algebra phase, so I have to be careful not to go too far with you, but your y-intercept is the number hanging out there by itself. So let's go back to this whole idea of graphing. This number is your y-intercept. So when I graph it, okay, and I need you to write this down. This one, it is important, if you don't have graph paper, that you make yourself a little bit of a graph. Okay, make yourself some graph paper out of some notebook paper just for one, so that you can see what it is and so that I can see that you did it. Okay, your y-intercept equals 1. Okay, we had just said that. So my y-intercept equals 1. I'm going to put a dot right there. Now, the other interesting thing is that the number that's multiplied times the x, this is your slope. So I need you to write that down. This is your slope. Super important. So your slope is 2/3. My rise over run is 2/3. So since my rise over run, 2/3, 2 tells me to go up 2, 3 tells me to go right 3. So to find other points, I start at my y-intercept and I go up 2, right 3. And I can find another one and go up 2 and right 3. And I could find another one, up 2, right 3. And you're following that pattern on and on and on, using your slope and your y-intercept. Okay, brand new concept for you guys. And then you start at one of them, you make a nice straight line down through all of your points, noting that the pattern is continuing up 2, right 3, up 2, right 3. You're using your slope and your y-intercept. Okay, let's analyze this one right here. Okay, this one's a little different. Okay, we still have to think about our slope and our y-intercept. I'm making my graph. My graph is not perfect. I want to fix it up a little bit, make my axes actually horizontal and vertical. There we go. So I've got my x and I have my y. I'm going to put a dot right on my y-intercept. Where's the y-intercept? Y-intercept is 1. I'm going to put it right on 1. Y-intercept. This case, our slope is different. Okay, our slope here is -3/5. -3/5. Sorry, that was supposed to write a little better. -3/5. So what the -3/5 tells me is that I go down 3. And then the other one tells me that I go right 5. So just like we went down, just like we went up and right, this positive down here tells me right as well. Now, this negative that's out here, if that bothers you, that it wasn't with the top or bottom, does that mean it goes with both? No, it only goes with one or the other. It does not go with both. So we need to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and we need to go right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So down 3, right 5 to find your next point. Down 3, right 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that you're finding the point after the point after the point. And then you take your nice straight edge, your line, And really, that's the easiest way to graph. So when I look at your notes that you're going to take a picture and send me, be looking for this one also. All right, that's it for today. Tomorrow, you have a work day for the whole time. You're just working on assignment number 80. And you'll be making sure that you understand it. If you want to get a jump on it and you still haven't spent the full class period, then please get a start on it today so you don't have as much to do tomorrow. It's good to be really good with your time management so that you can maybe knock off a little bit early on Friday, because you can do that now. All right? Very good. And I hope to see you soon. God bless you. Bark.